My name is Jessica. I'm a senior software developer at Shopify. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about the Golang HTTP service that we wrote, the incidents that happened to us, and what we learned from it. Or some my people call it purposely testing. At Shopify, we have a pretty big app store, and we send HTTP requests to those apps. This is a very, very simplified architectural diagram of how we send the HTTP requests. So we have the Shopify monolith, which is written in Ruby on Rails, and we send the HTTP request to the downstream app. Simple. Sometime last year, we decided to use Go for our HTTP delivery service in order to better utilize its concurrency. And this is another very simplified diagram of how it works. So we have the monolith, we write the payload, the URL, and the headers to the data streaming service. In this case, it's Kafka. And the HTTP delivery service listens to those requests and then send it to the downstream app. After we have written it, we thought that, well, it's a good idea to beta test this first, right? So we select a few internal apps to minimize the impact to test. While we were testing, Kafka went down. It went down for half an hour. And then when it went back up, it sends half an hour worth of requests to our HTTP delivery service. And the HTTP delivery service literally just dump it all into the internal apps, causing them to go down. How bad it was. This is the request rate that we sent. When the Kafka went back up, it sends 4 times the normal load. Not only the internal apps were not responding at this point, the load balancer was not responding to the liveness probe, so that was down. And because this load balancer is also responsible for a couple other critical services at Shopify, so those other apps was not responding. So it was a pretty bad catastrophe. Before I go on any further, I need to talk about something called Startle, for those of you who are not familiar. But before I talk about Startle, I need to talk about what's not a Startle. You guys probably already guessed. This is something that's not Startle. As you can see, the request rate is very, very spiky. It has a high rate of change. There's no upper limit. So as you can see, in fact, this graph already broke the window. You can't even see where it's going. So this is something that's not Startle. The word Startle means to regulate the speed of something. What that means is to take into example. So this is something Startle. As you can see, the rate of change is slower. It has a slower ramp up, a slow ramp down. And there's a maximum rate at 250 requests per second. Your load balancer usually prefer a graph like this because it can have enough time for its auto-scaling algorithm to scale more servers in response to the load. So you don't DDoS yourself. So what should we have done? After 3 slides of hints, you probably get a hint. We should have Shuttles. So we did have Shuttles. We did Startle except in the wrong place for that particular instance. What we should have Startle is in between every single component. We should have Startles between the data streaming service and the data delivery HTTP delivery service, as well as between the delivery service to the apps. You might be asking, why didn't we do it? That's a very good question. I wonder why. We were busy working on other things. So why were we busy working on other things? Well, there were other low-hanging fruits. Like, it seems like there are other tasks that's easier to do, but give us more impact at the time. So why were there lower-hanging fruits? It was difficult to add the Shuttles. Like, you have to write custom code in between each component. They often are different. This is not something you can finish like in one deploy often. You probably have to do a few deploys, and hopefully your coworkers start wondering, wondering why you're deploying so much, because you have to tune these parameters. Why is our service not working properly, etc. Why can't you just test it in dev or in staging? But that, as you know, probably doesn't really work in real life. So what if there's generic library for Startlers? I'm going to skip the next slide. I did write a generic Startler library. You can check out with the URL at the top. But in the interest of time, I'm going to skip it. There are many other good libraries out there. You don't have to use this one. So what I want to let you take away is that it's very important to throttle between components. I think if you have not thought about it, probably time to think about it. If you are like us, who have thought about it but keep delaying it, time to think about your priorities. And then you have already done that. Kudos to you. And not last but not the least, some people might say that they prefer using, I think people have heard circuit breaker and throttling before. In my opinion, circuit breaker is a form of throttling. It's throttling at a rate of 0. But either way, think about it. All right, thank you very much.